Imagine standing at the edge of a wide river. The water is moving effortlessly, carrying leaves, branches, and reflections of the sky. You reach down, cup your hands, and try to scoop some of it up. But the harder you grip, the quicker it slips through your fingers. That is how life works. The more we try to hold on, the more it escapes us. And yet, when you relax your hand, when you trust the river, the water rests gently in your palm. This is the first secret of flow. Life was never meant to be controlled. It was meant to be experienced. For most of us, though, letting go feels terrifying. From the moment we wake up, our minds tighten around plans, expectations, and outcomes. We check our phones before we even stretch. We rehearse conversations in our heads before they happen. We try to predict every possibility, thinking if we just plan enough, worry enough, or care enough, we can protect ourselves from disappointment. But what happens? We don't feel safer, we feel heavier. It's almost like carrying a backpack filled with stones. Each what-if thought adds another rock. What if I lose my job? There's a rock. What if they don't like me? Another rock. What if I fail? Heavier still. And by the time you walk out the door, you're exhausted, not from life itself, but from the weight you put on your own shoulders. Buddhist wisdom tells us, suffering begins not because life is heavy, but because we refuse to set the backpack down. Letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It doesn't mean you abandon responsibility. It means you stop gripping life so tightly that you crush the joy out of it. Think about the last time you laughed so hard your stomach hurt. Did you plan it? Did you control it? Or did it just happen? The truth is, the best moments in life are unplanned, unscripted, and uncontrolled. They slip into our lives when we are relaxed enough to receive them, and yet we resist. We're taught that caring means clinging, that love means holding on, that success means constant control. But this way of living goes against the very current of existence. Control is an illusion. You can plan the perfect vacation and get rained on the whole time. You can spend years building the perfect career only to have the economy shift overnight. You can cling to someone with all your heart and still they may leave. The Buddha once reminded us, everything is impermanent, everything changes. That truth is not meant to frighten us, it's meant to set us free. When you accept impermanence, you begin to loosen your grip. You begin to see that your power is not in controlling every outcome, but in how gracefully you respond when outcomes change. Like a tree in the wind, its strength is in its flexibility. A rigid tree breaks, but one that bends with the storm survives. Here's a simple reflection. When was the last time your life took an unexpected turn and something beautiful came from it? Maybe you missed a train and on the platform, you met someone who later became a dear friend. Maybe you lost a job and out of the fear and uncertainty, you discovered a path you'd never have chosen for yourself, one that actually fit you better. These moments are reminders that when we step back, life often knows how to arrange itself more wisely than we ever could. But to experience this, we must dare to trust. Trust doesn't mean blind faith. It doesn't mean pretending life will always be easy. Trust means recognizing that even in difficulty, life carries wisdom, that there are lessons hidden in loss, that growth often hides inside uncertainty. The mind resists this, it whispers, but if I stop caring so much, won't everything fall apart? The answer is no. You will still care, but your caring will shift from anxious control to calm presence. Instead of clinging, you'll connect. Instead of forcing, you'll allow. And this shift changes everything. Let me tell you a story. A student once came to a Zen master and said, "Master, I feel like I'm drowning. I'm trying so hard to hold everything together, my work, my family, my own thoughts. The more I try, the more I feel I'm sinking." The master smiled gently and poured tea into the student's cup. He kept pouring until the cup overflowed, spilling across the table. The student cried out, "Stop, it's full." The master paused and said, "Exactly. Your life is like this cup. You keep filling it with more worries, more control, more fear. There is no space left for peace. Empty your cup and life will fill it naturally." This is what letting go feels like, emptying the cup, setting down the heavy backpack, trusting the river, not because you are careless, but because you realize caring doesn't have to mean clinging. So pause for a moment right now. Take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what am I holding too tightly? Is it a worry about tomorrow? Is it a memory from yesterday? Is it a need to be seen, to be understood, to be in control? Feel the weight of it in your hands, and then in your imagination, loosen your grip. Notice the relief that comes, even for just a second. That is the taste of freedom. That is the beginning of flow. And once you've tasted that freedom, even for a heartbeat, you'll begin to sense something extraordinary. Life does not punish you for letting go. Life rewards you. It flows toward you like the river that has been waiting all along for you to stop fighting the current. Fear, it is the quiet shadow behind so many of our choices. It shapes the way we speak, the way we walk into a room, the way we dream or stop ourselves from dreaming. Sometimes it's loud, like the sudden jolt when you hear bad news. Other times it's subtle, almost invisible, like the tension in your shoulders that never goes away. In Buddhism, fear is described as a seed. Every thought we hold is like a seed planted in the soil of our mind. Some seeds grow into joy, compassion, and wisdom. Others, like fear, sprout into doubt, anger, jealousy, and despair. And here's the truth. The seeds you water most often will grow the strongest. Think about it. If every day you rehearse your fears, if you constantly whisper to yourself, what if I fail? What if they reject me? What if I'm not enough? Then those seeds take root. They grow into thorny vines that wrap around your life, suffocating your freedom. Soon, you are no longer living. You are only protecting yourself from imaginary disasters. That's why fear is called the first seed of suffering, because from it, all other forms of suffering easily bloom. Imagine this. You fear losing your job. That fear turns into anxiety. Anxiety makes you overwork, pushing yourself beyond healthy limits. That overwork leads to exhaustion. Exhaustion leads to resentment against your boss, against yourself, even against your loved ones. What started as a single fear has multiplied into suffering that touches every part of your life. The Buddha once said that fear is like a second arrow. The first arrow is life itself. Something happens, maybe painful, maybe unexpected. The second arrow is the one we shoot ourselves. The fear, the story, the what-ifs we create in our minds. The first arrow is unavoidable. The second one is optional, yet most of us shoot it over and over without realizing. Let's pause here and ask, where does fear really come from? If you peel away the layers, you'll see it isn't just about losing money or status or relationships. At its core, fear comes from clinging to what we believe is me and mine. We fear losing what we identify with. My job, my partner, my reputation, my body. But Buddhism teaches these things are never truly ours to begin with. They are temporary. They are passing through like clouds across the sky. Fear arises when we demand clouds to stay fixed. There's a story of a monk who carried an empty bowl to the river every morning. One day a student asked him, "Master, aren't you afraid someone will break your bowl? You have no other." The monk smiled and said, "This bowl is already broken. Every sip I drink is a gift. If it lasts a day, I am grateful. If it lasts a year, I am fortunate. But when it breaks, I will not suffer because I never believed it would last forever." This is the wisdom of fearlessness, not in denying danger, not in pretending bad things can't happen, but in living with the deep knowing that all things pass. When you stop demanding permanence, you stop being held hostage by fear. Think about the fears you've carried for years. How many of them ever came true? How many sleepless nights, how many anxious mornings were wasted rehearsing disasters that never arrived? And even if some fears did become reality, didn't you also discover strength you didn't know you had? Didn't you survive moments you once thought you couldn't? Fear rarely tells the full truth. It exaggerates, it distorts, it blinds. Yet we often obey it without question. Fear whispers, "Don't take the risk, don't speak your truth, don't step into the unknown." And so life becomes smaller, like a bird that refuses to leave the cage even when the door is wide open. But here is the shift. When you recognize fear as just a seed, just a thought, you no longer have to water it. You can choose to water courage instead. And courage in Buddhism doesn't mean never feeling afraid. It means feeling the fear, bowing to it, and still stepping forward with awareness. Try this simple practice. The next time fear rises in you, pause and say, "I see you, fear." Don't push it away, don't fight it, just name it gently. When you shine the light of awareness on fear, it loses its power to control you. It becomes just another cloud passing through the sky of your mind. Slowly, as you practice, you begin to understand something liberating. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is your teacher. It shows you where you are still clinging. It shows you where you have not yet surrendered. And if you listen deeply, fear can guide you toward freedom. And so, the journey begins here, by looking directly at the first seed of suffering, not with hatred, but with wisdom. By learning that fear will visit, but it does not have to stay. By realizing that beneath the noise of fear, there is a stillness that cannot be touched. It is from that stillness that real strength arises. The kind of strength that doesn't come from control, but from surrender. Fear teaches us where we are holding on too tightly. But what happens when we finally loosen that grip? What if, instead of fighting against the current of life, we allow ourselves to flow with it? This is where true strength is found, not in control, not in resistance, but in surrender. Now, surrender is a word many people misunderstand. We often think of surrender as weakness, as giving up, as being defeated. But in Buddhism, surrender is something entirely different. It is the highest form of courage. It is the strength that comes from aligning with life instead of fighting against it. Picture a mountain stream rushing down from the peaks. A boulder stands in its way, massive and immovable. The water does not resist. It does not waste its energy trying to break the stone. Instead, it simply flows around it, wearing down the edges over time, carving a new path with patience and grace. That is surrender. And in the end, it is the water, not the rock, that shapes the land. When you surrender, you stop wasting energy on the impossible. You stop clinging to what you cannot control. You stop demanding that life bend to your will, and instead you discover the power of bending with life. Think of the times you fought hardest to control something. Maybe it was a relationship. You tried to hold someone close even as they were drifting away. Maybe it was your career. You pushed and struggled, desperate to climb, terrified of falling. And in all that struggle, what did you feel? Exhaustion, anxiety, sometimes even despair, because control drains us. But surrender restores us. A Zen saying tells us, "The bamboo that bends is stronger than the oak that resists." The oak may look solid, but in the storm it can snap. The bamboo, though, bends and sways, always returning to its root. That is the hidden strength of surrender. But how do we practice it? How do we actually surrender in daily life? It begins with one simple step: trust. Trust that life has its own intelligence. Trust that even when things do not go according to your plan, they are still unfolding according to a deeper wisdom. This doesn't mean you stop making efforts. It doesn't mean you sit passively and wait for miracles. It means you act with clarity, but you release the outcome. You put your heart into the work, but you let go of the need to control every result. You plant the seed, you water it, you give it sunlight, and then you allow it to grow in its own time. There's a story of a farmer who prayed every night for his crops to grow faster. Each morning he would go to the field, tugging gently at the shoots to help them rise. Of course, by pulling, he only damaged them. His impatience destroyed what nature would have given freely if only he had trusted. That is how many of us live, tugging at life, demanding it move at our pace. But surrender teaches us to let things grow in their own rhythm. When you live this way, something remarkable happens. Your inner battles quiet down. Instead of fighting reality, you begin to cooperate with it. Instead of being drained by resistance, you are nourished by acceptance. Your energy returns, not because life has suddenly become easier, but because you have stopped wasting your strength on what you cannot change. And here lies the paradox. Surrender doesn't weaken you, it makes you unshakable. A person who resists life is constantly at war. A person who surrenders is always at peace. Which one do you think is stronger? Think of a time when you finally let go of something you had been holding too tightly. Maybe it was a dream that no longer fit you. Maybe it was the need for someone's approval. Maybe it was the fear of not being enough. Do you remember the relief? That sudden lightness, as if a great weight had been lifted. That is the strength of surrender, not weakness. Freedom. And here's the most beautiful part. When you surrender, life begins to support you in ways you never imagined. Opportunities appear where you once saw only walls. Joy arises in moments you once overlooked. Relationships heal, not because you forced them, but because you stopped forcing them. Life flows through you and for you when you stop trying to dam the river. So ask yourself, where in my life am I still resisting? Where am I still fighting to control? Can I soften? Can I trust? Can I let life move me the way the wind moves the bamboo? Because the truth is, surrender is not the end of effort. It is the beginning of wisdom. It is the moment when we realize that the real power was never in controlling life, but in harmonizing with it. And when you live this way, when surrender becomes your strength, something extraordinary begins to unfold. A deep, quiet peace that no storm can shake. When we surrender, something beautiful begins to happen. We return to the only moment that truly exists, the present. And it is here, in this breath, in this heartbeat, that freedom lives. Anxiety is nothing more than our imagination rushing ahead of us. It drags us into tomorrow, painting pictures of problems that may never come. Fear belongs to the past, wounds we cannot change. Anxiety belongs to the future, events that haven't yet arrived. But peace belongs only here in the present. Think of how often your mind runs forward, rehearsing disasters like an endless movie reel. What if I fail? What if they leave me? What if tomorrow everything collapses? You begin living not in reality but in possibilities, and most of those possibilities never even happen. Yet the body suffers as if they were real. Your chest tightens, your breath shortens, your heart races. Anxiety tricks the body into believing you are in danger, even when you are perfectly safe. The Buddha once compared the anxious mind to a traveler carrying a heavy load on his back, worrying about the journey before even taking the first step. He said, "Why suffer twice? Why suffer for what has not yet come?" That is the nature of anxiety. It makes us suffer in advance. But here's the truth. Life only ever unfolds one moment at a time. Tomorrow does not exist yet. Yesterday has already dissolved. The only place you can breathe, act and live is now. And when you return fully to this moment, anxiety loses its grip. Try it right now. Take a deep breath in. Feel the air filling your lungs. Feel the weight of your body resting where you sit. Listen to the sounds around you, the subtle ones you usually ignore. Notice, in this exact moment, is there danger, or is it only in your thoughts? The mind is like a restless monkey, always leaping from branch to branch, regretting the past, worrying about the future. But meditation, mindfulness, presence, they are ways of gently bringing the monkey back home, reminding it to rest in the here and now. Imagine this: you are drinking tea. If you are present, that tea becomes a miracle. The warmth in your hands, the aroma rising, the taste dancing on your tongue. Suddenly, life feels whole. But if your mind is elsewhere, lost in tomorrow's worries, you don't drink the tea at all. You drink your anxieties. You miss the miracle. How much of life have we missed this way? Walking but not seeing. Eating but not tasting. Speaking but not listening. Always rushing to the next thing and the next and the next. Until one day we realize we have hurried through life itself. Living in the present is not about ignoring tomorrow. It is about giving tomorrow back to tomorrow. It is about trusting that when it arrives, you will meet it with the strength, wisdom, and courage you've cultivated today. Anxiety does not prepare you for tomorrow. It only robs you of today. There is a Zen proverb: if you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. If you are at peace, you are living in the present. Notice how much of our suffering comes from being anywhere but here. But when you surrender into presence, the storm inside begins to quiet. You discover that right now, in this breath, you have everything you need. You are safe. You are alive. And that is enough. So ask yourself, what if I stopped carrying the weight of tomorrow? What if I allowed myself to fully live today? Because here's the great paradox. When you stop obsessing over the future, you actually prepare for it better. A calm mind makes wiser choices. A present heart responds more skillfully. And when tomorrow finally arrives, you meet it with clarity instead of panic. Living in the present doesn't mean life will always be easy, but it means you will always be alive for it, fully, awake and unafraid. And in this awakened presence, something extraordinary begins to unfold. The joy of simply being. Anxiety belongs to tomorrow, but most of what we call tomorrow's problems never even arrive. Our mind builds them, paints them, breathes life into them until the imagined feels more real than reality itself. This is the great trick of fear. It convinces us that what might happen is already happening. It keeps us awake at night, trembling over shadows that vanish in daylight. Think about it. How many nights have you lost sleep replaying a worst-case scenario, a difficult conversation that never took place, a failure that never came, a rejection that never happened? We suffer deeply not because life has punished us, but because our mind rehearsed pain that was never real. Buddhism teaches that fear is like a mirage in the desert. From a distance, you see water shimmering. Your body tenses with thirst, your heart rushes, and you may even despair when you realize you can't reach it. But when you walk closer, you discover it was never water at all. It was only an illusion projected by conditions. Most of our fears are exactly like that, illusions created by the mind. They look solid, but when you touch them with awareness, they dissolve. Of course, there are real dangers in life. Fires burn, illness can strike, storms arrive. But notice the difference. When real danger comes, the body moves naturally. If a car speeds toward you, you don't freeze in imagined fear, you leap aside. Real danger awakens instinct. Imagined fear paralyzes. And here lies the suffering. We spend far more time trapped in imagined fears than facing real ones. The Buddha once said, "The mind makes a fearful place where there is no fear." We imprison ourselves inside walls that don't even exist. There's a story of a young monk walking through a dark forest at night. He saw a snake coiled on the path ahead. Terrified, he froze, unable to move. He waited until dawn, trembling with fear. But when the sun finally rose, he saw the truth. It wasn't a snake at all, only a rope. For hours, he had suffered, paralyzed by an illusion. Isn't this what we do every day? We see snakes in the shadows, imagined failures, imagined losses, imagined heartbreaks, and we freeze, wasting our precious life in fear. But with the light of awareness, we see clearly. Many of these snakes are just ropes. So how do we tell the difference? How do we distinguish imagined fears from reality? The answer is simple, though not always easy. Presence. When you are present, you see things as they are, not as your mind paints them. Ask yourself, is this fear happening right now in this very moment, or is it only happening in my imagination? If the answer is imagination, breathe and let it go. If it is real, respond with clarity, not panic, because imagined fear consumes your energy without purpose. Real danger awakens your energy with purpose. See the difference. One drains you, the other sharpens you. And here's the deeper truth. Most of the pain we carry is born from imagined fears, not real life. We replay mistakes that no longer exist. We anticipate disasters that never come. We cling to stories that were never true. We exhaust ourselves fighting shadows. But when you finally begin to see this clearly, a freedom opens. You start to laugh at the mind's tricks. You begin to catch yourself in the act. Ah, here comes the snake again. But maybe it's only a rope. That awareness is the first step toward liberation. Because fear loses its power the moment you see it for what it is, just thought, just projection, just shadow. Reality, on the other hand, is far gentler than the mind's imagination. Reality is this breath, this body, this moment. And in this moment, you are alive, safe, whole. So the invitation is this: stop letting imagined fears steal your life. Stop suffering from things that don't exist. Return to what is real. Because reality, no matter how imperfect, is always kinder than the illusions of fear. When we look closely at our imagined fears, we begin to see what feeds them: the illusion of control. Deep down, most of our anxiety is born from this single belief, that if I just hold on tightly enough, plan carefully enough, fight hard enough, I can control everything that happens in my life. But reality whispers otherwise. Life moves on its own terms. Seasons change without asking our permission. People come and go regardless of our desires. The body ages whether we resist or not. Yet still, the mind clings. If I control enough, I'll be safe. If I control enough, nothing will hurt me. And this is where suffering begins, because control is a cage, and inside that cage, faith cannot breathe. Think about it. When was the last time you felt consumed by control, checking and rechecking, planning and over-planning, forcing life to follow your script? Did you feel peace? Or did you feel tense, anxious, exhausted? That tension is the price of control. The Buddha taught that clinging is the root of suffering. Control is simply clinging disguised as strength. But here's the truth. The more tightly you grip, the more fragile you become. Like glass that shatters at the smallest crack, a life built on control breaks easily. Faith, on the other hand, is not about passivity. Faith is about trust. Trust that even when things fall apart, you will find your way. Trust that even when outcomes shift, life still carries meaning. Trust that you are not abandoned in the flow, you are part of it. But control and faith cannot coexist. One says, I must force everything into my design. The other says, I will walk with openness, allowing life to unfold. One contracts, the other expands. One is rooted in fear, the other in freedom. There's an old Zen story about a man clinging to a branch over a rushing river. His hands tremble, his body grows weaker, yet he refuses to let go because he fears the water will swallow him. But when at last his strength fails, he falls into the current, and to his surprise, the river carries him gently. He realizes the water was never his enemy. It was always his path. This is the shift from control to faith. When we let go of the branch, we discover that the river supports us. Life supports us. And all the time we wasted gripping, we could have been flowing. Ask yourself, where am I still clinging to control? Where do I believe that if I just try harder, nothing will go wrong? Is it in my relationships, my work, my identity? And what would it feel like to loosen my grip? Because the paradox is this: when you stop demanding control, you actually discover real strength. Not the brittle strength of force, but the flexible strength of trust. You move with life instead of against it. You begin to see that faith is not blindness, it is clarity. Clarity that no matter what rises or falls, you remain connected to something larger than fear. Faith does not erase uncertainty. It embraces it. Faith does not promise that life will always give you what you want. It teaches you that whatever life gives, you can meet it with courage and peace. And once you taste that faith, control loses its hold. You realize you don't need to micromanage the universe. You don't need to script every outcome. You don't need to live in constant tension, as if holding the world together with your bare hands. You only need to show up fully, moment by moment, trusting that the same life force that makes the stars burn and rivers flow also beats your heart. That force has carried you this far. Why should it abandon you now? The illusion of control is heavy. Faith is light. Which will you carry? When we finally loosen our grip on control, something unexpected happens. We grow. Letting go is not a loss. It is not weakness. It is not surrendering your life into chaos. Letting go is the doorway to growth. Think about the tree in autumn. Its leaves turn gold and fall away. If the tree clung desperately to those leaves, it would wither under the weight of what no longer belongs. But by letting go, it creates space for new buds, new blossoms, new life. The tree is not afraid of losing. It knows that every letting go is a preparation for renewal. We too are like that tree. Every season of life invites us to release something, an old habit, an old belief, an old story we keep telling ourselves, but most of us resist. We cling to what is familiar even when it hurts because we fear the unknown. Yet the unknown is where growth lies. The Buddha once said, "You only lose what you cling to," and what a profound truth that is. When you let go, you do not lose yourself, you lose only your chains. Growth comes the moment you stop resisting change and begin trusting it. Think about the hardest times in your life. The heartbreaks, the failures, the moments you thought you couldn't survive. And yet you did survive. More than that, you grew. Pain became your teacher. Loss became your guide. Letting go became your transformation. There's a Zen story of a man who carried a heavy bag of stones everywhere he went. Day after day, he complained of his suffering. But when asked why he didn't simply put the bag down, he shook his head. "These stones are mine. I can't let them go." So he continued to suffer. Isn't this what we do? We carry the weight of anger, regret, and old fears as if they define us. But the truth is, the moment we put the bag down, we discover how light we really are. Letting go is not forgetting. It is not pretending the past didn't happen. It is choosing not to live there anymore. It is saying, "This story does not own me. This pain does not define me. I am free to begin again." And here's the paradox: the more you let go, the more you receive. When your hands are clenched, nothing new can enter. But when your palms open, life flows in. Opportunities, wisdom, love, they find space where clinging once lived. So ask yourself, what am I still holding onto that is holding me back? A past mistake, a relationship that has already ended, an identity that no longer fits. Imagine how much lighter you would feel if you set it down. Imagine how much space would open for who you are becoming. Growth is never found in clinging. It is always found in releasing. Like a seed that must break open to become a tree, you must release the shell of your old self to become who you are meant to be. It may feel like breaking, but it is really becoming. The path of letting go is not easy. It asks for courage. It asks for trust. But it also offers something priceless: freedom. Freedom to grow, to expand, to live without the chains of yesterday. And once you taste that freedom, you will never mistake clinging for safety again. Because you will know, deep in your bones, that every letting go is not an ending. It is a beginning. Growth begins when you let go. But the deepest transformation happens when you finally step aside and allow life to flow through you. Most of us spend our days trying to push the river, forcing it to move faster, bending it to our will, demanding it carry us exactly where we want to go. And in the process, we exhaust ourselves. The river does not obey. It only resists, and the more we fight, the more we suffer. But here is the quiet wisdom: rivers do not need pushing. Life does not need forcing. It is already moving. It has always been moving. The moment you step aside, you realize the river has been carrying you all along. Stepping aside does not mean becoming passive. It does not mean abandoning responsibility. It means loosening the grip of ego, the voice that says, "I must control everything. I must shape every outcome. I must prove myself." That voice believes life cannot flow without its constant interference. But the truth is, life flows best without it. Think about the sky. Clouds drift across it without effort. Birds rise and fall with the currents of air. The sun does not strain to shine. The moon does not force the tides. They move in harmony with forces larger than themselves, and so can you. The great obstacle is the self, the belief that I am separate, I must carry the burden, I must force the plan. But the more tightly you cling to this I, the more you stand in the way of the very life that is trying to unfold. Buddhism teaches us the wisdom of non-self, not as a denial of existence, but as a doorway into freedom. When the ego steps aside, what remains is openness. Life begins to move through you rather than against you. You stop being the dam and become the current. Have you ever noticed that the most beautiful moments in life happen when you are not trying to control them? Laughter with a friend, the quiet peace of watching the sunset, the joy of being fully immersed in a task, losing track of time. In those moments you stepped aside. You let life flow. There's a Zen saying, sitting quietly doing nothing, spring comes and the grass grows by itself. Notice the wisdom here. The grass does not need you to pull on it to grow. Spring arrives and growth happens naturally. Life has its own intelligence, far deeper than our plans. So what if you trusted that intelligence more than your fear? What if you stopped demanding answers and began listening to the rhythm already pulsing within you? You might discover that life is not against you, it has always been for you. Stepping aside is not weakness. It is strength of the highest kind. It takes courage to stop fighting, to stop forcing, to stop clinging to the illusion that you alone must hold the universe together. It takes faith to let the current guide you. And yet, When you dare to do it, a miracle unfolds. Life becomes lighter. Possibilities open. Synchronicities appear. What you once chased begins to find its way to you. Because when you stop blocking the flow carries you exactly where you are meant to be. Ask yourself, where in my life am I still pushing the river? Where am I exhausting myself trying to make things fit my design? And what would it feel like to simply step aside, just for a moment, and see what life wants to show me? The truth is, life does not need your constant interference. It only asks for your trust. And when you finally give it that trust, you discover a freedom far greater than control. The freedom of flowing with what is. When you step aside and allow life to flow, something even more profound begins to happen. You start to feel aligned with life itself. This alignment is not forced. It is not about bending the universe to your will. It is the quiet art of trust, the subtle recognition that you and life are not separate. You are partners in the same dance. Trust is not loud. It does not announce itself with certainty. It is soft, like a hand resting gently in yours, guiding you step by step. Trust says, I don't know the entire path, but I will walk anyway. And the moment you take that step, alignment begins. Think of a sailboat. The sailor cannot control the wind, but with trust they raise the sail, and with skill they align the boat to catch the current. The wind does the rest. Life is the same. You cannot command its direction, but you can align yourself with its flow. You trust the wind, you adjust your sail, and suddenly, you are moving farther than force could ever take you. Alignment comes when you release resistance, when you no longer demand that life always match your expectations, when instead of clinging to the question, why is this happening to me, you begin to ask, what is life showing me here? That shift from resistance to openness creates harmony. The subtle art of trust and alignment is not about doing nothing. It is about listening deeply, listening to your body when it whispers for rest, listening to your intuition when it nudges you toward a path you don't yet understand, listening to silence, to the pauses between action where clarity often hides. There is wisdom in the rhythm of things. The tides rise and fall. The moon waxes and wanes. Day turns into night without effort. When you trust that rhythm, you stop fighting time. You stop demanding that the tide never retreat or the night never fall. You align instead, and in that alignment, peace is born. Have you ever noticed that when you are aligned, life feels effortless? You meet the right person at the right moment. The opportunity you weren't even chasing appears. Solutions rise naturally, as if the universe was already arranging them behind the scenes. This is not coincidence. It is the natural fruit of trust. But alignment requires humility. It asks you to admit, I don't always know what's best. I don't see the whole picture, but I will trust the larger intelligence moving through all things. That humility is not defeat. It is wisdom. The Buddha compared life to a lute string. If pulled too tight, it snaps. If too loose, it makes no sound. Only when held in balance does it create music. Trust and alignment are that balance. The gentle middle path between force and surrender, between striving and giving up. So ask yourself, where am I still out of tune with life? Where am I forcing when I could be listening? Where am I resisting when I could be aligning? The answer may not come in words. It may come in a feeling, a release, a quiet inner knowing. Trust is not about believing nothing will ever go wrong. It is about believing that even when things fall apart, you are still held by something greater. Alignment does not erase uncertainty. It teaches you to move gracefully through it. When you master this subtle art, life ceases to feel like a battle. It becomes a dance. You are no longer tripping over your own resistance. You are moving in rhythm with the flow. And in that rhythm, you discover what you have been searching for all along, peace. And so after all the searching, the lessons, the letting go, we arrive here, at the simple truth that life was never meant to be wrestled into submission. It was always meant to be danced with. When you let go of fear, when you release the illusion of control, when you surrender the weight of clinging, you don't fall into chaos. You fall into rhythm, a rhythm that was always there, patiently waiting for you to hear it. Life is music, sometimes soft and gentle, like rain against your window, sometimes wild and stormy like drums in the distance, sometimes silent, holding space for you to breathe. To dance with life's rhythm is not to dictate the beat, but to move with it, to trust it, to allow yourself to be carried by something greater than yourself. The river flows whether or not you fight it. The seasons turn whether or not you approve. The sun will rise tomorrow, not because you demanded it, but because it always has. And when you stop trying to control the song, you discover the beauty of simply moving with it. This is the wisdom of the Buddha. Suffering is born from clinging, but freedom is born from release. When you release, you grow. When you grow, you align. And when you align, you begin to dance, not awkwardly against the current, but gracefully with the flow. Remember, you are not separate from this rhythm. You are not an outsider trying to fit in. You are the rhythm. You are the wave and the ocean, the dancer and the music, the breath and the silence between breaths. So as this journey draws to a close, let it also mark a new beginning. Step into your days with lighter hands. Trust the river. Trust the wind. Trust that even when the rhythm changes, when life surprises you, challenges you, even breaks you, it is still carrying you exactly where you need to go. Dance, not with certainty, but with faith. Not with control, but with freedom. Not with fear, but with love. And perhaps then you will realize the truth that was waiting for you all along. When you stop forcing, when you step aside, when you let go, life itself becomes the dance. And you are already moving beautifully within it. If these words have touched something within you, let this be more than just a moment. Let it be the beginning of your own practice of letting go and flowing with life. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to stay connected. Subscribe to Zen Buddhism Wisdom for more timeless teachings, gentle reflections, and stories that guide the heart toward peace. Together, let us walk this path of stillness and clarity, allowing wisdom to unfold, one breath, one step at a time.